Breaking news out of Las Vegas. Today is no ordinary day for Raider Nation. While America celebrates its Independence Day, the silver and black faithful are honoring a true icon, the late, great Al Davis, on what would have been his 96th birthday. His vision, his legacy, and his impact on the Raiders still shape this franchise to this very day. But what does that legacy mean in 2025? What are the lessons the current Raiders can learn from the man who made "Just Win, Baby" a battle cry? Stick with us, because this special edition isn't just about remembering history, it's about how Al Davis's values still matter right now. Today, the entire nation celebrates freedom. But in Las Vegas, this July 4th holds even more weight. It marks what would have been the 96th birthday of Al Davis, the boldest voice the Raiders have ever known. Al Davis wasn't just a football executive. He was a rebel, a visionary, a man who challenged the NFL system and changed it. From pushing for diversity to building a team with swagger, Davis didn't just run the Raiders. He defined them. But before we dive deeper into this powerful tribute to Al Davis and what it means for the 2025 Raiders, take a quick second. Subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and hit the bell icon so you never miss the latest breaking news and inside stories from Raider Nation. All right, let's move on to the latest. Every year on this day, we go back in time and reflect on the life of the man who built the silver and black. Al Davis may be gone, but his fingerprints are still all over the Raiders organization. And in 2025, with Pete Carroll now leading the franchise, the big question is, can this team finally return to that fearless identity Al Davis lived by? To honor Davis, we revisit a conversation with John Kingdon, a man who spent over 30 years scouting for the Raiders and stood shoulder to shoulder with Al himself. Kingdon offers rare insights into the mindset of a man who didn't just follow the rules, he made his own. This isn't just nostalgia, it's a roadmap. Because in a year where the Raiders face big decisions, high expectations, and a tough AFC West, Al Davis's playbook for bold leadership might be exactly what this team needs. Al Davis, the standard of greatness. What comes to mind when you think of Al Davis on his birthday? For those who worked alongside him, like longtime Raiders scout John Kingdon, it wasn't just a day off. It was a reminder of a man whose presence defined the Raiders from the inside out. Kingdon spent 33 years with the silver and black. That's half a lifetime spent learning from Al Davis, studying his approach, enduring his challenges, and ultimately understanding the mind behind the shield. Davis didn't just build a football team, he created a culture of defiance, intelligence, and innovation. Working under Al wasn't easy, and it wasn't supposed to be. Every day was a battle of minds. He came in with questions, but make no mistake, he already knew the answers. It was a test of your knowledge, your preparation, and your ability to think like a Raider. New coaches, they got a warning from Kingdon. If Al asks you something and you don't know, don't fake it. He'll know. Just tell him, and come back prepared next time. It was like dealing with a high-powered attorney. Every question was calculated. But when you earned his respect, it meant something. And if you ever managed to change his mind, you'd barely get a nod before he moved on. Victory was short-lived because the next challenge was already coming. But here's what separated Davis from the rest. He loved the players. Not just the stars. Not just the ones putting up numbers. He had a special place for the ones that others gave up on. Misfits. Cast-offs. Guys with something to prove. And Al gave them that chance. Take Ethan Horton, a failed first-round running back in Kansas City. Al brought him to the Raiders, moved him to tight end, and turned him into a Pro Bowler. He saw things others didn't. It wasn't just scouting, it was vision. Al Davis also pushed the NFL forward in ways many still don't fully grasp. Long before it was common, he was scouting talent from historically black colleges. He didn't care where you came from. He cared if you could play. Willie Brown, Raymond Chester, Art Shell. These weren't just great players, they were symbols of what the Raiders stood for under Al. What made the silver and black so different? It wasn't the colors, it was the conviction behind them. Players felt it the moment they walked in. They knew this was a place that demanded everything, but gave them belief in return. To wear the Raiders uniform meant something because the man behind the curtain refused to let it mean anything less. Ask anyone who met Al Davis, his presence wasn't something you forgot. Former Raiders executive John Kingdon recalls how players would walk out of meetings with Al absolutely stunned. Not intimidated, impressed. Because Al didn't just ask surface-level questions, he'd recall plays from 2 years ago, breaking down how that player lined up on the strong side, the weak side, or even on specific downs. That attention to detail, that command of the game, it wasn't for show. It told the player one thing loud and clear. This man knows football, and he knows me. For many, that meeting became a turning point. The moment they thought, yeah, I want to play for this guy. Even though the final decade of his time running the Raiders didn't produce titles, his influence never faded. The commitment to excellence and the silver and black mystique, it still pulses through this franchise. For players and fans alike, Al Davis wasn't just an owner. He was the soul of the Raiders, and he still is. Kingdon also recalled the rare but genuine bond Al had with certain people across the league. Despite being famously private, one man Al trusted, Jerry Jones. It was a friendship rooted in mutual football obsession and a willingness to take bold risks. There's even a story of a draft day trade where Davis allowed Jones to pick an offensive lineman on the Raiders' behalf, knowing the deal would get done fairly. That's how much trust Al had in him. And perhaps the most unbelievable visual of all, Al Davis, wearing Dallas Cowboys workout gear, jogging through Valley Ranch during a combine held in Texas. A Raider. In Cowboys colors? A contradiction, but also a reminder, Al was always focused on football, no matter where he was. But back in Las Vegas, the fire he lit burns brighter than ever. Literally. When the team moved to Vegas, that iconic Al Davis memorial torch was built as a permanent reminder of the man who shaped the franchise's identity. And for Kingdon, and for countless members of Raider Nation, that torch isn't just a monument. It's a symbol of everything Al stood for: vision, loyalty, rebellion, and greatness. On that first 4th of July after relocating to Vegas, fans drove by the facility just to see it glowing. They didn't need to go inside to feel it. The message was clear from the street. This is Al's team. Still. Al Davis, Raider Nation, and the true meaning of silver and black. When you talk about Raider Nation, you can't separate it from Al Davis. He didn't just lead a franchise, he created a movement, a family, a force. And Raider Nation was something he cherished. Whether it was fans packing the hotel lobby on road trips or hostile crowds booing the team as they took the field, Al loved every second of it. Because to him, boos were just another kind of respect. Wherever the Raiders went, that silver and black identity followed. The pride, the edge, the unmistakable swagger. Al Davis even chose those colors with purpose, inspired by the uniforms of West Point. Black for power, silver for precision. It wasn't a gimmick. It was a statement. And when asked what it means to be a Raider, John Kingdon, a man who spent decades inside the organization, summed it up with 4 core values: size, speed, toughness, pride. The teams that thrived under Al Davis lived those qualities every day. And they didn't just play for wins, they played for each other. For that shield. For the legacy. Yes, recent years have tested that identity. Since the transition in leadership, the Raiders haven't always reflected the same vision. But Kingdon believes the heart of that philosophy still exists, and it's waiting to rise again. He reflects on the struggles during the early rebuilds and some missteps in leadership after Al's passing. But he's also optimistic. He points to sharp personnel moves, stronger scouting leadership, and a renewed focus on building with intention. They've got the right minds in the room now, he says. Still, one of the most debated decisions in team history remains the trade of John Gruden after the infamous Tuck Rule game, a moment burned into every Raider fan's memory. Kingdon couldn't believe it at the time. And while Davis never openly admitted regret, it lingered. Because that's the thing with Al. He was fierce, independent, and unapologetically bold. But even the boldest men have their silent doubts. And for those who knew him closely, that Gruden trade felt like one of the rare moves that even Al might have wanted back. What's undeniable is that the passion he poured into the Raiders, The fire he lit in that organization still burns. And every time a fan wears that jersey or lights that old Davis torch in Las Vegas, it's a reminder of what being a Raider truly means. The rift with Marcus Allen and the ghosts of Raider legends. Some stories in Raiders history are filled with glory. Others, they're steeped in pain. And few cut deeper than the fractured relationship between Al Davis and Marcus Allen. Marcus wasn't just a great running back, he was arguably the most complete back in NFL history. A fearless blocker, a surgical route runner, a quarterback safety net, and a competitor who never took a play off. He didn't have Olympic track speed, but he didn't need it. He could cut at full speed, make defenders miss in a phone booth, and command a game like few others. But somehow, it wasn't enough. Not for Al. Over the years, Davis brought him back after back, legends like Eric Dickerson and Roger Craig, looking for the next guy. And each time, Marcus stood firm, frustrated, yet professional. But it boiled over when Marcus went on national TV and told Al Michaels something unforgettable. "He's trying to kill my career." That line? It never left Al. Even when Marcus reportedly tried to make peace years later, Al replied coldly, "I'm not ready to forgive you yet." That single comment revealed how deep the wound really was. Behind closed doors, John Kingdon, who worked beside Al for decades, knew the tension. He recalls one specific moment in 1986. The Raiders were 8-4 and rolling toward the playoffs. Then, in an overtime game against the Eagles, Marcus fumbled. The ball popped loose on a sharp cut and was returned near the goal line. Philly scored. The Raiders collapsed, lost their final 3 games, and missed the postseason. For most, it was just a mistake. But to Al, it lingered. It became the excuse. Kingdon admitted it. He regrets not putting that moment in the book because in hindsight, that fumble may have been the tipping point. The moment Al decided, he's replaceable. And if losing Marcus wasn't painful enough, fate had one more gut punch in store. Marcus scored his 100th career touchdown against the Raiders as a Kansas City Chief. Imagine that. One of your greatest warriors celebrating a milestone in the uniform of your fiercest rival. Al surely felt it. But the irony? Kingdon, a die-hard Raider himself, silently smiled. He loved Marcus, and despite everything, part of him was happy for the man. But it wasn't just Marcus. Al had public fallouts with 3 men who came to define the Raiders' image. Ken Stabler, Marcus Allen, and John Gruden. All 3 had complicated legacies, yet all 3 became legends. The fans never forgot them. And Al? Whether he admitted it or not, their success probably stung. Which brings us to a bigger question. Would Al Davis have welcomed John Gruden back as head coach in his second stint? John Kingdon thinks, yes, eventually. Because Gruden wasn't just another coach. He was a mirror of Al. Passionate, intense, obsessive, and bold. At first, Al may have underestimated him, believed he could mold him. But over time, he saw, this guy isn't just following the playbook. He's writing his own. After Gruden was traded, the coaching carousel turned chaotic. Names like North Turner, Art Shellaghan, Lane Kiffin, Tom Cable, Hugh Jackson, all trying to recapture that spark. It never quite returned until Gruden did. Whether or not fans agree with how things ended, one truth is clear. Al Davis respected power, vision, fire, and in John Gruden, he saw all 3. As Kingdon puts it, Gruden was a younger version of Al Davis himself, and that's exactly what made him irreplaceable and impossible to control. Carr's crossroads and the human side of Al Davis. When it comes to Derek Carr, there's always been one lingering question for Raider Nation. Is he the one? The quarterback who can finally bring this franchise back to glory? The 2016 season teased us. Carr looked like the real deal, clutch, confident, dangerous. But since then, false starts, frustration, coaching changes, chaos. According to longtime Raiders insider John Kingdon, the one thing working against Carr might finally be shifting in his favor: stability. For the first time in years, he had the same offensive coordinator back to back. That matters. That consistency, that rhythm, it's everything for a quarterback. But what Carr needed even more, Kingdon says, was something else. Edge, fire, accountability. Al Davis built his Raiders on toughness, not just in pads, but in mindset. Kingdon remembers watching John Gruden try to inject that exact mentality into Carr. Turn him from nice guy into field general, someone who holds teammates accountable, isn't afraid to call out mistakes, and refuses to take the blame for everyone else's errors. It was the Rich Gannon effect. Gannon never sugarcoated. He demanded perfection, and his teammates respected it. That's what John Gruden wanted Carr to embrace. And if Carr could evolve into that kind of leader, the Raiders might finally have their answer under center. But enough about schemes and stats. Let's talk about the soul of the silver and black. John Kingdon spent decades working alongside Al Davis, and what he saw wasn't just a hard-nosed football executive. He saw the human being behind the iconic sunglasses. He tells one story that captures it perfectly. One day, Al flew into LA and Kingdon picked him up. Al casually said he was hungry. Kingdon suggested Fatburger, a fast food joint not far away. So they walk in, and the cashier grins. "Mr. Davis, back again? That's 3 times this week." Kingdon looked over, and for the first and only time in all those years, Al Davis looked sheepish. He grinned and said, "God, I love this place." The image of Al Davis, billionaire, legend, icon, quietly loving Fatburger like a kid sneaking candy. It stuck with Kingdon forever. But it wasn't just burgers that brought out Al's warmth. It was his players. The scouting department under Al wasn't filled with suits and strangers. It was built on Raiders, former players who knew the system, the standard, and the legacy. Guys like Kent McClowan, Danny Connors, Angelo Coya, even Mickey Marvin, a player turned scout who may not have been the best evaluator, but brought the heart Al cherished. Each December, they'd all reunite for pre-draft meetings. For Al, it wasn't just business. It was a brotherhood. He'd share stories, crack jokes, and light up as he remembered the old days. Bruce Allen once said, "I wish the scouts were in here all the time." Al's happiest when the old Raiders are around. And it didn't stop there. Every 5 years, for his birthday, Al Davis would host a massive celebration in Las Vegas, not for attention, but for connection. When legends like Gene Upshaw or George Blanda passed away, Al made sure every single Raider who ever shared a locker room with them was flown in, all expenses paid. He wanted to honor their legacy. Together. That was Al Davis, not just the architect of a football empire, but the guardian of a family. Tough? Absolutely. Demanding? No doubt. But loyal? Fiercely. He never forgot who helped build the Shield. And even now, years after his passing, his fingerprints are still on every inch of Raider Nation. The Princess of Darkness and Darth Vader, Raiders legends and final days in Oakland. When people talk about legends in Raider Nation, names like Madden, Biletnikoff, and Al Davis rise quickly to the surface. But ask any true member of the nation, and they'll tell you, Amy Trask is royalty. They didn't call her the Princess of Darkness for nothing. She wasn't just the first female CEO in the NFL. She was a fearless executive who stood her ground in a male-dominated league and earned the unwavering respect of Al Davis himself. And according to longtime Raiders scout John Kingdon, that respect ran deep. He never tolerated anyone talking bad about Amy. The few times someone did, he shut it down instantly. Even though Amy and John worked on different sides of the building, she in executive operations, he in personnel, he saw firsthand how much Al trusted her judgment, especially on legal and business matters. She wasn't afraid to challenge him when needed, and for a man like Al Davis, that took guts. One story says it all. At training camp one year, a couple of visiting athletes from China, members of a women's basketball team, happened to be observing practice. John, who only knew a handful of Chinese phrases thanks to his sister-in-law, decided to greet them with a few light-hearted sentences. He said hello. He thanked them. He closed with, "I love you, goodbye," in Mandarin, and they burst into laughter. Amy saw the exchange and was intrigued. The next day, someone came up to Kingdon and said, Amy said you're fluent in Chinese and want you to run the Chinese version of the Raiders website. Kingdon laughed and replied, I can barely say 5 things. If they want someone to type, thank you, I love you, goodbye, I'm their guy. Anything more? Not a chance. The moment was never mentioned again, but it's the kind of quirky, behind-the-scenes Raiders memory that paints the full picture, not of a team, but a family. Another moment sticks in Kingdon's mind, the time Amy posted an iconic image on her social media. Al Davis shaking hands with a man dressed as Darth Vader. It reminded Kingdon of a magazine article years earlier that ranked NFL owners. Tech Shram came in at #1. Al Davis was #2. The magazine quipped that Al had all the instincts of Darth Vader. When Kingdon showed Al the article, Al glanced at the quote, looked up, and asked, Who's Darth Vader? Kingdon explained, He's the main villain in Star Wars, basically the personification of evil. And Al, ever the contrarian, ever the raider, just grinned. That's pretty good, huh? That's who he was. Fearless, embracing the villain role if it meant inspiring his team. Just win, baby, wasn't just a slogan, it was a mission. And if being the league's Darth Vader helped drive that mission, he was all in. But with all those memories, the laughs, the loyalty, the love, came one bittersweet chapter. The final season in Oakland. For John Kingdon, it was deeply personal. I moved to Oakland for this job. Then we went to LA. Then back to Oakland. The city became home. It mattered. He believes the NFL didn't make things easy on the franchise during that transition. The schedule? Brutal. Only 2 home games before a 7-week stretch without another. One home game wasn't even in California, it was overseas, in London. And yet there was still magic in the air. The final home game at the Coliseum, a Monday night showdown against Denver, gave fans one last unforgettable roar. Fireworks, tears, and the thunder of Raider Nation echoing through the black hole. It was a goodbye, one last chance for the city to show what the Raiders meant to them. And they did. From Darth Vader comparisons to fat burger runs. From Amy Trask's trailblazing role to the final cheers in Oakland. The legacy of the Raiders isn't just about wins and losses. It's about stories, moments, loyalty, rebellion, and the undeniable spirit of Al Davis, still echoing in every chant of Raiders. When you talk to anyone who's been around the Raiders long enough, someone who truly lived the team's rise, fall, and relocation, there's one thing they'll all say. The Raiders should have never had to leave Oakland. Not once, not twice, not ever. John Kingdon, who was there through it all, doesn't mince words. He watched firsthand as a lack of commitment from city leaders ultimately forced the franchise out. Not because the team lacked loyalty, but because the city didn't hold up its end of the bargain. Oakland should have been our Pittsburgh, blue-collar, loyal, loud, passionate. All we needed was a proper stadium. They never gave it to us. And when NFL Commissioner Pete Rozelle told Al Davis, you can't move, Oakland won't let you, Al did what Al always did. He proved them wrong. The 1982 relocation to Los Angeles wasn't out of greed. It was out of frustration. And when the team finally returned to Oakland in the mid-90s, it wasn't to a modern home, it was to a patched-up, outdated stadium with more history than comfort. As Kingdon described it, it was like putting a ribbon on a pig. Even in the 2000s, the infrastructure remained far behind what the team and the fans deserved. The bones of a once great home were still there, but time had passed it by. And when the team made its second departure, this time to Las Vegas, it was met with mixed emotions. Some fans were devastated. Some understood. But everyone knew this. It didn't have to be this way. In a bittersweet twist, Kingdon reflects on 1982, Marcus Allen's rookie year. The team practiced in Oakland, but flew down to LA for every home game. They finished that strike-shortened season 8-1. Even that odd travel schedule didn't hurt us. That team had heart. Now, looking back, he doesn't blame the players. He doesn't blame the fans. I blame the people back in 80, 81, the city leaders who had the chance to keep the team where it belonged. And yet, through all the stadium drama, through all the relocations, the losses, the memories, one thing never changed. The soul of the Raiders lives in the people. Al Davis knew that. It's why he never forgot his players. It's why he honored legends like Gene Upshaw and George Blanda, flying in everyone who knew them just to celebrate their legacy. It's why every training camp Al lit up when the old scouts and former players showed up, laughing, telling stories, reliving battles. It's why, even now, when you walk through the corridors of Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, that spirit still lingers. In the colors, in the echo of "Just Win, Baby," in the pride of every fan wearing silver and black. Al Davis didn't just build a football team. He built a culture. He built a nation. And though the Raiders may now call Las Vegas their home, the heart of Raider Nation will always beat with the rhythm of Oakland asphalt, Sunday thunder, and the unshakable voice of a legend who simply refused to be told no.